I'm here with my friends, Chad from the Macross Mecha Manual. You can say hello, Chad.
Chad's not even sitting down. You can't see
Chad,
him. He's like walking
no!
around.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first official installment of the Pop to Culture show on YouTube. You may know us before from the Macross Delta recap show. We are back after a very, very long hiatus, and you may have seen that we uploaded a few videos within the past week. We're putting our toes back in the water, and we're ready to get back into the swing of things. Today, I'm here with my friends, Chad from the Macross Mecha Manual. And say hi, Chad.
Hello, everyone.
Okay. And my friend, Alex from Macross Fan Central. Hello.
How come Chad goes first? That's
'Cause
A
I
goes
was trying
before C.
Because I was trying to figure out what to say for yours, so Chad went first.
All right. Well, here we are. So
Woohoo! We got the band back together.
I know.
Woohoo.
And look how much better it looks. Look how everything is like so sharp and clean.
Not all pixely and gross.
Yeah.
Like I was last week. Whoops.
People still watch that. People still watched it.
So one of the things that we were looking at for our talking points today was talking about misogyny and really treatment of female fans in a male-dominated fandom, which Macross is really no stranger to, at least in the States. The poll results from NHK's Ultimate Macross poll kind of demonstrate otherwise, that it's a pretty even gender split. But in English-speaking communities, it really seems to be that, at the very least, male fans dominate the conversation. Like, even if they're not the majority in the circles that you're in, they are the loudest and the quickest to share exactly what they're feeling.
And it seems like they kind of like stifle the conversation when it comes to what the female fans are interested in. And I was looking at the percentage of fans on Macross Fan Central. It's 95% male, 5% female.
Yeah.
And our other group, Macross Delta group, it's 30% female and what do you call it? And 70% male. It really is a male-dominated conversation place. So, and I don't think that members are helping that much in generating like more female members. So that's kind of like my issue with it and why I wanted to bring it up. Like, I don't know. What are you guys thinking?
I see. I think part of what makes Fan Central kind of tough in that respect too is that it's a really fast moving group. So even though I see, other women posting in there and commenting in there, because of the size, a lot of posts just kind of, they peak and then stop, or if they get any traction at all, because sometimes you'll have people post and like maybe 2 people like it and no one responds to it. So I do think that plays a role in it. Otherwise, I'm not certain what it could be about Fan Central that I guess makes women feel like they're not as inclined to join it. Because I see, even in other groups that I'm in that aren't like connected to Fan Central and that kind of thing, like I still see women posting, not a ton, at least on Facebook. On Twitter, I see lots of female Macross fans all the time. There's a larger community on that platform. So I kind of wonder if it might have to do with Facebook. And just the way that women engage with stuff on Facebook isn't the same as necessarily the way they do on Twitter or Instagram.
It could be that, but also I think with Macross Fan Central, it's the main group is somehow focused on like it's an older demographic for sure. Like I think that the median age is like 40 to 50. But Macross Delta is a lot younger as an audience. It's still a male-dominated group, but yeah, it like if that was the main group, that would be like an advertiser's heaven right there because it's so diverse. It's a lot more diverse than the first group. Like the first group is like skewed so much towards like the 1980s show, 1990s. And they don't really give the newer audience a chance as far as conversation. you know.
Maybe. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, I don't really know how to even approach that sort of like the topic. I guess it's just like it is. I think because of, like Alex said, because of like the legacy media nature of Macross, at least in North American fandom or English speaking fandom or something like that. It's like it's still primarily based off of SDF Macross, Do You Remember Love, Macross Plus, that era of Macross, Flashback, Macross 2 even. That sort of like the 1982 to 1995 era of Macross is still like the bread and butter, I guess, of Macross. And a lot of that early Macross was focused on boys. It was like entertainment that was initially made for boys, even though it did have much more crossover appeal for female fans than I think most other mecha shows, both of that era and even since in certain ways. But yeah, just for the English speaking community, I guess they just understandably so. I mean, they latched onto the mecha aspect of it, the war aspect and that sort of drama of it, much like I did at that age, especially because it was such a novelty. Like we don't really have mecha, or at least we didn't at the time in the early 80s and stuff like that. We didn't really have much in the way of mecha media in Western civilization. So it was just like, this was such like a novelty to us, and it captured the imagination of a lot of guys. And I think that's kind of, why it's still going that way. But it's unfortunate. I don't know how to fix that exactly. I think like things like Delta are probably a step in the right direction as far as like making the Macross brand appeal to people outside of like the hardcore mecha. But I almost feel like they were kind of forced to do that for other reasons rather than inclusion and diversity, which I would have hoped was their primary motivator. But I think they did it just because the idol aspect of Macross was the aspect that was selling the best in an era of anime production in Japan where mecha is just at an all-time low. And unless your name is, unless your mecha is called Gundam or Evangelion, there's just nothing getting made. So I think Macross was forced to do what it could to sort of stay alive and stay relevant, I guess. And but it's sort of like it's kind of gone. Delta is sort of like, I guess, one way of going about it, but it also isn't appealing that much to, I guess, the mecha fans, not just old school mecha, but like new mecha, right? Like I think Macross Delta is appealing to us because we're already Macross fans and stuff, but I don't think I think it's bringing in idol fans. I don't think it's bringing in mecha fans.
I would agree with that. And that's something that I think is happening across both male and female fan bases in terms where it's bringing in idol fans versus mecha fans. And really the way that they've prioritized the presentation of Valkyrie over the dogfights in Delta kind of, I think, definitely plays a big role in that. I'm kind of curious, though, if you think that, see what you guys think about this, that the way that fandom is represented in Fan Central and maybe in other English-speaking communities as well is in a way that makes it feel like, how can I put this? In a way that makes it feel like women may not be welcome even if they are fans of that aspect. Like, for example, it's pretty well known, because Tomino brings it up a lot, the creator of Gundam, that women were the backbone of Gundam fandom. And without female fans, Gundam would not be where it is today. And they've been the backbone of Gundam for a long time. And women still continue to do that, I think, in anime fandom as a whole. But the way that our groups, at least that we're in, they tend to hyper focus in on the like quote unquote masculine parts, which is the mecha, the dog fights, the military aspects, where you traditionally wouldn't find a lot of female fans. And it's actually kind of interesting, this, at least something that I've noticed in Macross fandom, is that typically when you do encounter other female fans, they're kind of more into the idol character cosplay portion and not as much into the mechs. Not to say that there aren't women in Macross fandom who are interested in the mechs and into the designs and that kind of thing. There certainly are. But I kind of wonder if, because our group leans really heavy into that aspect, if that might be why there aren't as many women who are joining, or who are joining and not really staying, because that seems to be heavily presented instead of the part that maybe they're more interested in, because it doesn't feel like it's going to appeal as much within the main group.
Are you saying it's more heavily presented by the group, or like what influences the presentation to the group?
For example, in Fan Central, at least, there are a lot of posts about Valkyries, like images of them, talking about the mechanical aspects, the industrial aspects, theorizing about military strategy, like really a lot of that kind of thing. And not that there aren't women who, you know, who are interested in that, because there certainly are. There's literally a whole genre of girls with guns, like that's a big thing, you know. But for some women who may not be as interested in that, if you're coming into a group and you're seeing that's the majority of the content, it can be, or even, you know, a fan in general, not just a female fan. Maybe when you're coming in and saying, oh, they don't really talk about, you know, these other things. They're really heavily focused on this one thing that tends to have more of a masculine draw, then they're not as likely to stick around for that community and may find another community that has what they're looking for.
Yeah, women definitely join the group, but their posts go down so fast, like they disappear within the day. Like, you know what I mean? Like they'll post about like a song, or, you know, or an aspect of the story that, you know, from Delta or Frontier, or even like the original, and those go away so fast. And the ones that get bumped up are the ones about the Valkyries and the mechas and I guess the war aspect, stuff like that. So
it's kind of, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I find it kind of schizophrenic though too. Like everything that Celia says is absolutely like on point. But I also find that it's this weird sort of thing from the male, at least maybe this is my perception of it, but from the male side of the community, there's such a like so many of them love the music of Macross. Like it's such a huge part of their fandom, almost as much as the Valkyries itself. But they never seem to talk about it unless it comes up in a discussion in it, like in a weird sort of way. Like it's almost like the men in our group won't start a conversation about the music, but they want to talk about it, like big time. Because anytime the conversation does turn towards like the music, it's like, oh god, I love Yoko Kanno and stuff like that. Dozens of guys start flooding the comments. It's like, I love the soundtrack for Macross. I love the soundtrack for Macross. But I love the soundtrack for even Macross 2. I don't really like it that much, but I love the soundtrack. And that opening is amazing.
Yeah.
And they'll like, it's like it's one of the things that they're crazy about. But for some reason, we don't. We
it doesn't get as many replies, so they don't stay at the top of the forum.
Yeah, it's weird. It's so schizophrenic that way. Yeah.
Right. It's something that occurred to me because it's something that I personally experienced, not in Fan Central, actually in a different Macross group on Facebook, where, because prior to the pandemic anyways, I had built like a pretty decent like following for my Macross cosplay. Like I had some pretty loyal people on my pages and that kind of thing. And as long as I was participating in fandom as a cosplayer, no one had a problem. But I remember when I bought my first DX Chigoken, the VF31, and I posted it because I'm like, yay, it's my first one. Like that's kind of a rite of passage almost for a Macross fan. When you get your first one, it's super exciting and you feel like you've kind of like leveled up, so to speak. I remember sharing it in another group. And this one guy who actually was a fan of my cosplay page, and I don't think he knew it was me because I was posting it under my personal account. I posted it and he's like, well, why did you buy that? I heard that buying Blu-rays and other merchandise supports the creators better. And I'm like, excuse you?
So that's why you're buying stuff to not fulfill your own needs, but to make sure like the creators' kids go to college or something.
Right. It was just one of those things where I'm like, excuse me. And he had commented on other people who had posted pictures of the same Chigokin, because we all got ours, within the same 2-day period, and was like, wow, that's so cool. But mine was the only one he questioned. And the other people who had posted were all, at least based on their names and their profile pictures, it looked like they were guys. And my friends in the group were really awesome, and they came to, stomp out the troll. But I'm like, okay, so no problem if I'm participating as a cosplayer and talking about the things that are expected, that girls are expected to be interested in, which is the music and the character aesthetics and that kind of thing. But as soon as I step foot into buying mecha toys, suddenly there's a problem. And that's actually the only time I've encountered that as an anime fan. And I've been an anime fan for like 18 years now, where someone in a fandom that I've had no problem with up until then was like, basically implied, why'd you buy that? You're a girl.
Yeah.
And it sucked. I actually think he was jealous because I got one and he didn't. That may have been the core reason why he posted that. Because not only did he not get it, but a girl got it.
Yeah.
He should be jealous.
He's like, you're taking away.
That figure is amazing.
You're taking away from the real fans, Celia, by scoring one on pre-order night. How dare you?
How dare I do such a thing? How dare I? But yeah, it was one of those things that made me go, that's odd. Okay, well, why aren't you buying the $700 Blu-ray set if you're a real fan? You know what I mean? Like,
let me see your Blu-ray collection.
That's a conversation that goes nowhere anyway. So, but no, that's actually a really good point. Maybe there is maybe there's more gender role like sort of behavior going on at something like Macross Fan Central, or even any fandoms, to be honest, than we like to think or imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think any of us, like us three, like definitely don't fan that way. We go all out, whatever we like, whatever aspect of it, and we will share and like post about all sorts of different aspects that we like. Like me, when I get excited about something about Macross, like I post it, even if it doesn't fit on like my own Macross group, like on Macross Mecha Manual. Like I shared that video of the what was her name who did the cover of Do You Remember Love?
Yeah,
I was flipping out. It was so good. And I shared it in like a bunch of other groups that aren't Macross, and then shared it in other Macross groups. I shared it on my Macross Mecha Manual page, which is just like, it's a hardcore mecha page, just about the robots and all the ships and everything else like that. But I'm just like, this is so good. Like anybody who's a Macross fan has to see this. It's amazing, And so so we just do it that way. And I kind of feel bad if people feel like they can't fan the way they want to just because it's like, if you're a guy and you like the music, we clearly know you like the music, just go with it, like don't worry about it. And if you're a girl and you like the mecha, just do that too. Like it doesn't matter, like just you do you sort of thing, right? But you're right. I think you are right. It's just maybe it's just an aspect of it that I was hoping didn't have as much. I was hoping that gender conformity and like gender roles or whatever people think they should act because of their gender and stuff like that. I just hope that wasn't as big a straitjacket for people in our fan communities as well. Because I think we've tried hard to say like, you do you, man. Like whatever you like about Macross, like share it, talk about it, geek out.
We
like,
really try to
we do.
People.
We do. We geek out in a much, and we don't care if
and
it's
everything.
Like everything.
Yeah.
From the character design to wall scrolls to music to mecha, like everything. Just do it, man.
Yeah, I brought it up because there was this one. I don't know if it was a report, one of those member reports, and I'm assuming it was a girl that had a problem with what somebody else said, and her comment, I'm assuming it's her. Said, nice group, too bad about the misogyny. And I looked it up and I was wondering what she was talking about. And it was like, it wasn't like a nice thing that somebody said, but it was something that they could have like glossed over. It wasn't like totally insulting and totally offensive. Like, oh my God, we need to kick this person out right away. So I left it. I left the comment there, and I don't totally disagree with the whole misogyny thing, but I think it's kind of unfair to like, say that the whole group is misogynistic, which they're not.
Yeah.
And I'm also worried about
I
like
agree.
about how if we start, because I guess she wanted that comment to be deleted. If we start deleting every comment that somebody finds offensive, like we're gonna go too far to the point where we're just sanitizing the group, the forum,
Right, yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't want that. I don't want people to be like become so protected that they never have to get offended. You know what I mean? It's like there's always gonna, like, we're not gonna ban every asshole out of the group. There's always gonna be assholes where you go, right? If they're like straight out like, like in every post they just want to get attention, they just want to make people's blood boil, then yeah, like let's get rid of them. We don't need that kind of attention. But this is just some guy that I've never heard of said his whole comment was valid, and then he said something kind of like off color towards the end, and I'm like yeah, you could have ignored that part of it. So yeah, I'm thinking like, no, we're not gonna like protect every person from everything that some guy said that you might consider him a jerk for the rest of your stay in the group.
Right. And I do think that's an unfair judgment on the entire group, because even though like what we've talked about before with the way that just our demographics are and the way things are presented, I will say though that really in male dominated spaces like the ones for Macross, because most of the communities I'm in are mostly men, they're still quite friendly. Like there haven't been very many where I'm like, I need to leave because this place is just not a friendly place to be if you're not a guy. They're still welcoming. They still want to have discussion, like at least, invigorating discussion. You are always going to have someone who's rude. That's just kind of the reality of the internet. And even when you do like, real life discussions, you're always going to have that one person that's just enough of an asshole to get on your nerves, but not enough to make other people go, dude, what the hell are you doing?
You just can't make them disappear with the snap of your finger. It's just, they're going to be in that discussion for however long you're hanging out with that person.
Yeah. So I do think that it is a shame that person felt like the group was like that was a misogynistic comment was enough to pass judgment on the entire group. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like, it's still good to watch for that, especially because I don't know if other fandoms have seen this recently, but like in anime fandom in 2020, there was a big surge in harassing young women for being interested in anime. And it was kind of surprising because really it had gotten to a point where women being involved in fandom was pretty much the norm. Like I remember when I first started participating in communities that if you revealed you were a girl in online communities, or like if they found out you were a girl going into a convention, it was gatekeeping galore. Like, and a lot of it was because the guy was trying to show off, because they're like, holy shit, there's a girl that's into this stuff. I got to prove that I know more than her so I can show her what a good fan I am, when really they're just being an asshole. And it's doing the exact opposite. But really we've gotten to a point where women having nerdy interests is no longer like being a unicorn. Mm-hmm. It's just normal, especially as nerdy culture has become a lot more mainstream. But it was something that I noticed, and I don't know if maybe it was just another thing adding on to the pandemic, because there was just a lot of tensions high over everything going on in 2020 already. But there were a lot of guys who are going after young men, or young women, I should say, usually in their like late teens, early 20s, and shitting on them because they liked mainstream titles. They're like, oh, I bet she only watches Hunter x Hunter for attention. So or, she doesn't even read My Hero Academia. She's probably just trying to get attention. And going after cosplay people too, and being like, you're just cosplaying for attention. And it's like, first of all, that's a really fucking expensive hobby for attention.
Yeah.
Don't pick that one.
No, like you better get attention if you're going to spend that much.
Anything else for just for attention seeking. But it's just really interesting. It was something that I saw, and it like a sudden spike on internet communities, at least when we had gotten to a point where that wasn't as much of a problem anymore.
Mm-hmm. I think the problem, one of the issues might be too that like this stuff isn't specific to Macross fandom or anime fandom. I mean, some of the problems that people are talking about, what they experience on our communities, what they experience in online communities, this backlash, like you said, against anime, female anime fans and stuff like that. I think some of this is like, this is stuff like way beyond Macross Fan Central. This is social issues, right? Like, I mean, you can't take the last 4 years of American political discourse, for example, and somehow divorce it from every other aspect of American life, right? I mean, people have written, entire think pieces, I'm sure, university level dissertations on what someone at the top who's misogynist, the effect that has on the population of the country and how they act and behave top down, and it's just like, that's, I don't want to bring that particular person into the conversation and give them more credit than they deserve. But that's simply like, we're talking about broader social issues. I mean, it's no secret that like a lot of fandoms, from Star Trek to Star Wars to Macross to Gundam to, everything, you pick your fandom and stuff like that, have always had like a lot of misogyny, have always had a lot of problems. They've always been problematic because of like various social aspects of the culture in which these fandoms exist, and beyond the fandoms into like other things, work environments, you name it, so I think it's a little unrealistic to expect of Macross Fan Central to solve some of these issues. Like Alex said, there's always going to be a certain amount of assholes and problems that we have to deal with, not only in Macross Fan Central, but in every like fandom or community or group. That is like, it's coming from outside. We can try to create the best space possible and try to staff it and moderate it as best we can. But these issues have to be solved like outside of Macross Fan Central on a cultural, like national level, right? And until that happens, stuff like this is going to rear its ugly head, and we'll try to deal with it as best we can. But it's like, we're trying to hold off a flood, so to speak. And I know that kind of maybe even sounds like an excuse or something like that, and that's not how I intended it to come across at all. But I'm just saying, this is a real mitigating circumstance that you can't simply put on us at Macross Fan Central and say, this is you.
Right. One group at Facebook isn't going to solve the problem or be the one to fix everything.
We could be part of the solution.
We can, we can hope to solve it in our group, and then maybe,
we can contribute to a solution, but we can't. You have to understand that we're bandaging a hemorrhage here. We have to. This is something that has to get dealt with like on an institutional, national level, and as a culture, we have to decide that no, this is not boys will be boys and crap like that anymore. It's just like, no, this is unacceptable. And that's hard to do. If the political climate and the social climate isn't agreeing with those sorts of sentiments.
Well, let me ask you, Celia, like as a female fan and an active member of the anime communities, is there like a group or some kind of a group that you would say that isn't male dominated? Like even like I mean on a I would say it's a cosplay group, Evil Ted's Foam and Rubber Customizers or something like that. Even that is like mostly guys. There's a lot more women in that group than there is in ours, but it's still like a wildly like male dominated group. And even outside of anime or cosplay, like I play poker, and most of the time when I play against women, they're like really good. Like maybe it's because they think differently. I can't read them for shit.
They're good at mind games.
Exactly. So, but it's like, again, I would say like 5% women within the poker community. Is there like a group that you would be in that you would say like, oh, this is mostly women in here?
For that, I would say probably the communities that I built intentionally. So,
Okay.
like for example, when I did a Macross pass the brush video with a bunch of other cosplayers, that was we created a server so we could all organize and coordinate, and that's all girls. But that's also because that's all who participated in the video. I'm also in a Discord server for a YouTuber. He's actually a really great YouTuber. I'm pretty sure his username is BeMoreBrass. I hope I remembered that correctly. Otherwise, I'm really sorry. I subscribed to him and I can't remember.
We could fix it at the bottom.
Okay, cool. The Discord server I'm in with him, there are also people that I know from other groups as well. And there are a lot of girls in there that are really active, and it's a really great community that he's built in his Discord server too. So I think in terms of like a public server versus a private group that was created like for this purpose of one project, I think his Discord server is a really good example of that, where you have people that not only know how to discuss pretty well, but who are also, I guess, cognizant of things like that. And for the most part, most of us are pretty like-minded, which helps, I think, where we all agree on certain issues regarding like problems within communities, discrimination, that kind of thing. So I really like that group. I wouldn't say it's female dominated, but it's probably the most balanced group I'm in terms of male to female fans.
Well, like the forum that we used to go to, there was a lot more girls than people knew about. Like I used to do custom kits, and my recaster was a woman, a girl. She's a woman. And there was somebody that was she had a webpage for Yoko Kano. It was called the Gabrielle Robin page, and on the forums she posted as a guy, and there was a lot more like that. But they let me know that they were like women, and how much they got harassed in the forums, as you know, guys are just like, hey, where do you live? Are you single? And it's just like stupid stuff that guys do. And
yeah,
there was a lot of that in the forum. And I'm hoping that it doesn't happen, because that stuff happens like behind the scenes. And I'm hoping it doesn't happen in Macross Fan Central.
Yeah, stuff like that. That actually, I think I brought up this point before we started the show as well. Was like that's sort of like a perpetuating problem as well. Like you have like Celia mentioned, like how Macross Fan Central comes off to females who aren't yet members or who are thinking of becoming members, and it's sort of like that. That's where it starts. Like that women even have to go through that step is part of the problem. The step of deciding, is this a female-friendly community that I can join? Like that's part of the issue. And like again, this goes again. I mean, it sounds like a broken record a bit here, but it's like that those are issues outside of Macross Fan Central as well. Like that's a broader issue where, again, like because of gender roles, or just because of like simple misogyny or harassment or something like that, or because these spaces have traditionally been male, they are exclusionary to certain people, and not just women either, like minority groups in general. So it's like that kind of thing. Yeah, that's sort of like something that needs to sort of change and just like stop perpetuating itself over time. And again, that's another thing that's hard to do, especially if those sorts of problems are baked right into your culture / nation. So that can be difficult to change. So and like if you create an environment that's like dominated by 90% men or something like that, women are just naturally reticent to getting involved in that, because it's like there's so few of them represented in this activity, group, whatever it is, right? Which of course pushes women away.
Yep.
Right. So that not only does the group can't change because there's not enough women, it also perpetuates the problem that there's not enough women, so not enough women join. And it keeps going over and over, one generation after another, after another, after another. And this is how you have like problems like, you know, like misogyny, which should have been probably dealt with and solved like hundreds of years ago, but here we are, you know, in 2021 still dealing with these issues, you know, which is, you know, should be embarrassing to just about like 90% of the population when you actually think about it in that context. But I guess people can't be shamed into changing and acting like human beings. So we have to try and figure out other ways of doing it. But I think that might be the issue as well, is just that perpetual rollover, where if you have a male-dominated space, females just naturally avoid it because they're apprehensive about being in there, which of course just makes it a male-dominated space perpetually, again and again and again and again.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for watching with us today, guys. If you agreed or disagreed with anything, we'd love to hear your feedback. You can leave that in the comments section below. Chad, where can people find you?
They can find me on Macross Mecha Manual on Facebook. You can also find me on the Macross Mecha Manual on Twitter. You can send me an email at marchingcw@hotmail.com. Or you can find me skulking about on the Discord server for Macross Fan Central every once in a while.
Nice. All right, Alex, where can people find you?
Yeah, so Macross Fan Central, the group, Macross Central, the page on Facebook, both on Facebook. And I'll be going to the Discord more. You can find that link in our group. It's a pinned a post. And that's about it. You know, Macross tweet on Twitter. So pretty easy to find. Celia?
Very nice.
where can we find you, Celia?
You can find me on Twitter at Planets Twinkle and on Facebook at Celia Rose Cosplay. If you happen to be interested in Toonami stuff, I do run the social media accounts for ToonamiFaithful.com. So you'll see me there as well. And I see everything that you post. Ooh,
Cool.
so scary. But anyways, yeah, so you can find me on those sites there. And hopefully we'll see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.